Hi, welcome everyone. We're taking just a couple minutes. We had some technical difficulties and are going to try to get all of our board members situated. Thanks for your patience.
Virtual meeting today? Hybrid.
Okay, thank you for doing that. I can join it the regular way. I just like to see that I've been promoted.
I see Ben in there as well. Oh, great.
Yep.
Thanks. Peter Lynn is there too.
There you are, Sean.
And Marvin, was Joshua going to be joining us too today?
I believe she'll be joining us virtually.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Simha and Paula, can you hear me?
Yes, hey Ben. Yeah.
Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I unfortunately have something I have to join from 2:30 to 3, so I'll have to step away from this meeting. I apologize, it's unavoidable.
No problem. Let's just want to double check. We can try to wait on the move the resolution. There's a lease agreement that we need to vote on. Do you want me to push it back till when you return?
No, I'm fine. I'm supportive of that, and
Okay.
if there's an issue, please go ahead.
All right. Well, we'll see when you're back as well. Then.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we get started?
Let's go for it, Austin.
Awesome. It's all you, Chair.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to our board members, staff, and to the public, and to Marvin Futrell from our COC board, who's kindly agreed to, or kindly come and joined us today as well. I'm now call this regular meeting of the implementation board of the KCRHA to order. And we start by grounding our work in our theory of change, which is that if we create a homeless response system that centers people with lived experience, then we'll be able to focus on responding to needs and eliminating inequities in order to end homelessness for all. So this is a hybrid meeting, as all of our meetings will be going forward. So there's a physical location as well as virtual access. I want to thank Mayor Bruce Harrell for allowing us to host the in-person location there in City Hall. And Austin, would you please go ahead and take roll?
Absolutely. Member Anderson. Member Caminos.
Here.
Chair Carvalho.
Present.
Member Shelmanat.
Here,
Member Merritts.
Present.
Member Spotted Elk. Member McHenry Jr. Member Patno.
Here.
Member Brandon. Chair Reddy.
Here.
Member Rankin.
Here.
Member Ross. Chair, the clerk recognizes quorum with 7 present.
Thank you, Austin.
Yep.
We'd also like to acknowledge that King County is located on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples. We honor this land and its people, past and present, and we're committed to directing funding and resources to organizations led by and in support of Native and Indigenous people. We also have public comment today, which is for 15 minutes, 1-minute periods of public comment, and it'll be following our CEO update. Each member of the public gets 1 minute. If you're in Zoom, please raise your hand now, and I see a couple people already have. Our clerk Austin will call on you in the order received. If you're in person, please let Austin know to sign up and get your name on that list. Just double check. All right. Before we get to CEO updates, let's move on to our consent agenda items. This month, we have 2 meeting minutes to approve of, our regular September meeting and a special meeting in September. Is there a motion to approve our consent agenda?
I move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those who approve say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Austin. Thank you, everyone, for going through the consent agenda, and we'll now look forward to hearing updates from our CEO, Helen Howell.
Sorry, took me a moment to get off of mute there. Good afternoon. Nice to see you all. I want to take a minute here to recognize some of the progress that we're making. I don't have to remind any of you that we're still in a time of transition, but we have greater clarity on what we need to do to make sure this agency is operating efficiently and effectively. The recommendations highlighted in the state audit report and the King County monitoring report already are being put into action. In the interest of transparency, all of our actions in response to the audits are posted on our blog. We're putting stronger financial controls and processes in place. Providers are currently being paid within 30 days of invoicing. And we're set up to renew service provider contracts by amendment and ensure that providers can begin billing in February for their 2024 expenditures. With support from our colleagues at the city and county, we are defining the specifics of additional actions we can take to make the agency run more smoothly. In particular, I want to note the partnership underway to implement improvements in our procurement, contracting, and invoicing processes, the entire continuum. These operational and administrative improvements are the base that will set us up for success in reprocuring the contracts and operations of service providers as we look forward. As you know, reprocurement of the system is one of the primary reasons that the KCRHA was created. And that's why it's so important to make sure the agency is ready to run the process well. I also recognize that there will be a new CEO coming in, and that leader should have the opportunity to engage in substantive decision-making about the direction of the system. We are beginning discussions of reprocurement and working to ensure operational capacity for the service provider engagement and a smooth administrative process, trying to make sure those are both in place. And we're balancing that with the need to prepare for a new CEO once they're identified. We will update you on the planning for reprocurement as we flesh out the details. I also want to acknowledge and recognize that there are influences outside of the control of KCRHA that will have significant effects on homelessness policies and progress. We are entering budget season with the city and county, and our budget will be finalized in the next couple months. Want to thank Mayor Harrell and County Executive Constantine for the investments in KCRHA in their proposed budgets. And we look forward to working with the city and county councils as they move through budget deliberations. We've also submitted our request for federal funding through HUD. Our NOFO application has been submitted, and the award will be made in the spring. Also, we're heading into an election next month in which both city and county council positions will be on the ballot. And there is a housing levy up for renewal. Also, it's worth noting that this year is the 5th anniversary of the Martin v. Boise decision. It's a federal case which held that anti-camping ordinances can result in unconstitutional, cruel, and unusual punishment. The case continues to be the subject of public discussion, and we will find out in the next month or so if it might be reviewed by the United States Supreme Court. As we continue to push to make sure that our internal operations are running as they should, we also continue to work with our partners at the city, the county, the state, and federal levels on funding and policy that can bring more people inside. Overall, I'm proud of the progress we're making, and I deeply appreciate the support and partnership of this board as we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Howell. Appreciate the update.
Mhm.
Let me open it up to our board members. Questions, comments? I see Ben, please.
Thanks. Just same question I asked last month. Is there any update on the plan for pit count for this January?
There is, and I expect that Owen will make a presentation on it next month at your November meeting. I would just note that the pit planning is well underway, and it's focused on the response-driven sampling methodology that we piloted in 2022. We're working closely with HUD on a methods exception to use the method again. And 2024 will focus on the count only and won't include the qualitative work that accompanied the pit in 2022. I don't know, Owen, if you have anything that you'd like to add now.
Thanks, Helen, and thanks, Ben, for that question. I don't have anything more to add at this time. I think, Helen, you covered it really well. They're right now just waiting to hear back from HUD with kind of the final determination. It is very, very likely, based off conversations with them, that this methodology is going to be fully approved. As they saw, it was very successful in 2022, and they're seeing some interest across the country about it. So I do plan on coming next month after the approval in order to give a much more detailed presentation.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I would, if you're open, I'd love to maybe do a deep dive in the system planning committee. That's the appropriate place for it, just to get to understand that a little bit better. It's such a critical yardstick for us, given our 5-year plan goals. Would love to have the opportunity to just make sure we fully understand what we're planning to do there. But glad to hear that's underway, and look forward to hearing more.
Yeah, just one more thing on that. Absolutely, I think that's the right venue. I have some conflicts, so we'll have to figure out the right time for that. But Ben, you've reached out previously for some different data questions, and always happy to take a one-on-one meeting to go and a deep dive with you on those as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Owen. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? And likewise, just like Ben, Owen, I'm excited to learn more about the respondent-driven sampling. It's a really fascinating approach to trying to more accurately count hidden populations, but tricky to do, and I'm glad to hear more. We now move on to public comment, unless there are other questions from board members. Okay. It'll be for 15 minutes. If you were not able to raise your hand or sign up, please go ahead and do so now. Austin, would you please open public comment and call on folks in the order received? I know we have 4 hands up and 1 person there in person.
We have actually 2 people up here in person here. Three. Well, 2 people to speak, and then Marvin.
I'm on the agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we begin, I also wanted to let the board know that members of WHEEL did come and give me a flyer that I will be scanning and sending over to your implementation board after this meeting concludes. So be on the lookout for that. Also, I did see member Spotted Elk is in the Zoom call. Just to recognize your attendance. Member Spotted Elk, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Awesome. You are what recognized. Quorum is now at 8. With that, let's begin public comment. We will start with the folks in Zoom, as it was the order received. Jade W. Jade W, you are first up. I've given you permission to speak. If you can unmute, want to test your mic, and then after the test is over, you begin talking. Your 1 minute will start then.
Okay.
Tess, can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you just well and fine, Jade. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so my name is Jade Weiss, and I'm a member of the Lived Experience Coalition. I'm also a former employee of the RHA. I was actually the second person hired after Mark, but my time there was short. So I'm really grateful to be here today back in this space alongside my coalition members. I requested the implementation board to include the Lived Experience Coalition in the design of the methodology for the delivery of the point in time count, to truly honor our seat at the table and to develop more transparency with the community. It's vital that the coalition is a key contributor. We are experts in the field and we have historical knowledge of previous point in time counts. We've also measured failures and successes to apply improvements moving forward. It's vital for the coalition to be a part of the point in time count implementation so that we may develop an equity focused algorithm and overall strategy. Further, creating an implementation board and Continuum of Care collaborative steering committee will bring more folks with lived experience to the forefront, allowing for more crucial experts to drive programming. I also support my coalition members today and our request
Jade,
for 2-minute public comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up we have is Michelle Eastman. Michelle, you've been given permission to talk if you want to test your mic, and then speak after that. Your 1 minute will begin after that.
Okay, thank you.
We hear you.
Great. So my name is Michelle Eastman. I'm the Communications Director for the Lived Experience Coalition. And I'm here to request that since the Lived Experience Coalition is a group that represents unhoused neighbors, that we need to be included in the design and implementation of the upcoming point in time count. To ensure that it is understandable and that to our unhoused community and community at large. And also that the algorithm that is used to generate it includes an equity lens. Because in the past, racial and demographic information has not been included. So having an equity lens would ensure that. And I also asked today that lived experience I also asked today that the creation.
Your 1 minute is up. Thank you. Next up we have Bill Curlin-Hackett. However, Bill lowered the hand, but I got you here, Bill. Bill, would giving you permission to talk if you want to test your mic, if you still want to talk, and then your 1 minute will begin. Perfect.
I do, and I concur with that 2-minute recommendation. Should I tell me when to start?
Your 1 minute begins as soon as you speak.
In June, I made a public records request of Seattle vehicle impounds between January to May this year. I found 1,441 RVs, campers, detached trailers, and buses. Reasons for the impound: 72-hour violations, expired tabs, detached trailer, prohibited areas. This is indicative of Seattle's punitive and hidden control of the streets. Our scofflaw mitigation in its 10 years kept impounds from tickets to under 5. The current mayor ended this. Shelter is not offered to these 1,441 since they're considered violations of law, and that appears to constitute a violation of Martin versus Boise, in my opinion. Law and its enforcement are aspects of ending homelessness being used as relentless tools of harm. Separately, under the Unified Care Team sweeps, Shelter offered fails if it's a couple, if there's pets, if there's children, if they're trans, and so on, since shelter spaces are for singles. Please ask the mayor of Seattle on the governing committee of this organization to end this harm. And I want to thank Sarah. And I want to, if any of you have questions, let me know.
Actually, Bill, can you clarify, was that 1,441 or 441?
1,441 in 5 months of not even counting passenger cars.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Next up is we have Deanna Washington. Deanna, you should have just gotten permission to speak. If you want to unmute, test your mic, and then once the test is done, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I am unmuted, hoping that you can hear me. My name is Deanna. Okay, great. My name is Deanna Washington, and I am a previous systems advocate with KCRHA, no longer a systems advocate due to the recent untimely layoff. My question, I'm hoping we can get more support with, is due to the layoff. We have been offered a severance pay. And in addition to that, could there have been some type of hiring freeze to prevent the current staff from being laid off and losing their work, especially around the holidays? And, you know, could we have prevented more trauma for the staff and the families, being that this happened around the holidays? Thank you.
Thank you. We now move over to the people of here in the Seattle City Hall. First up we have here is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, whenever you want to. Yeah.
My name is Elizabeth Maupin. I live in East King County. I know that our mission here is to reduce homelessness by centering customer voices, and as part of locating the customer voices and I wanted to bring out the need to have customer voices in the point in time count. I participated in the interviews in North Bend the last time we did the point in time count. There was a lack of advance information, so people didn't know we were there. We spent the first week trying to find people who were scattered in rural East King County. I was in North Bend, but it was also difficult for them to come to us even when they knew that we were doing the point in time count. So if you're doing the same kind of thing, you may need to do some scouting.
Your 1 minute is up. Thank you. And last person who is here in Seattle City Hall to give public comment is Harold.
Ashley and Zanita on there?
They did not request time public comment. However, it's still open. If they do want to request time, they can. Just raise their
I
hand.
don't need to test my mic. Thank you very much for your time. I want to comment on the system advocates' untimely dismissal. If you read your 5-year plan and everything that we have done over the last 4 years, being part of the board, being part of the creation of KCRJ, system advocates, peer navigators were never, ever a pilot program. This has gone too far. 3 weeks before we were terminated, with no severance pay, no consideration of how we feel. People broke down and they lied about what we were to do. First of all, we did not have training, and we were written up before our first training event was to happen. And it's unbelievable to me that we can let 5 people dismantle what we took 4 years to do. I asked the board to investigate this and ask the board for next implementation board hearing is that you have a listening session with the system advocates who are willing to talk.
The 1 minute is up. Thank you for that. Harold did flag to me that there are a couple people who might need to give public comment. With that being said, now is the time to raise your hand before we have to close public comment. If you are in Zoom, please raise your hand and we will happily give you public comment. And then this is the third ask. If you have any time, if you want to give time in public comment, please raise your hand now. With that said, I do not see anyone new. And Chair Simha, the floor is back to you.
Thank you to everyone, both virtually and to Harold and Elizabeth there in person for taking the time to give public comment today. Deanna already had a chance to speak. Thanks. I was just looking at the hands in the board. We're going to move on to our first order of business, which is to approve or to review and potentially approve Resolution 2023-15. This is authorizing KCRJ to enter a lease agreement with SJC Olive LLC. So this is for 60 units to help towards a right-of-way initiative. Sean Watkins is here to tell us more about it and answer any questions we might have. Sean, go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Reddy, members of the boards. Per the memo that I delivered with the board packet, we are seeking to master lease 60 units in conjunction with the governor's right-of-way safety initiative of permanent housing located on Capitol Hill. These are efficiency dwelling units that come well in under fair market rent. We've been able to negotiate a very favorable lease for the KCRHA, and a rental of these units would significantly increase our ability to create throughput through our emergency housing program, which would allow us to focus on more encampments that are currently situated in the right of way. And so, with that, I'm available to answer any questions, but I'm here to ask the implementation board to approve a 36-month master lease.
All right, thank you, Ben. I see questions from first Ben and then John.
Sean, what are the unit types, sort of bedroom and size?
So again, these are going to be SEDUs. They're 220 square feet apiece, and they're all studios. 14 of these units, I will note, however, are going to be full ADA accessible. So they will meet ADA guidelines. They'll have widened doorways, roll-in showers, etc. Each one of these units does have its own bathroom. It will have a small kitchenette, and then there will also be a community laundry and kitchen on the bottom floor for every stack of units. It's actually a really kind of interesting setup. I've toured the facility myself.
And are there on-site services, or is there space for services on site?
Yes, so there will be space for services on site. We will be contracting with a property management company to provide 24/7 on-site staffing, and then we will additionally be contracting another provider to provide case management and stabilization services for the folks that reside there.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. I mean, this kind of master lease is a really efficient way to get these units stood up quickly in the public sphere. Well, I just got one more question. How will people be placed into this? It sounds like this will be a fairly service light structure compared to like a PSH or other types of programs. How will these people coming into this building flow through coordinated entry, or will that be a separate intake process through the right of way? And how do we make sure that we're getting the right people into the building, given that we have a fairly light layer of services, it sounds like?
Sure, that's a great question, Ben. And so really actually excited to announce that in conjunction with this building, so mid-November, we began to lease up the Gene Darcy Place, which is a full PSH building. And so we'll be relying on provider assessment to make determinations on who is best able to kind of navigate housing with the light touch support that you're referring to, and who would need those more significant full PSH supports. And so, that kind of assessment will take place ongoing in our emergency housing programs.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I have to step away to my other meeting, but I'm very supportive of this. And if you need my vote, please just text me and bring me back. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
I got my questions answered with Ben's questions, so thank you.
I had a quick question. Sean, what does the timeline look like once we enter into a master lease in terms of hiring property management, hiring case management, and then starting to bring people in?
Sure. So we would look to use property management that is already being utilized in our emergency housing programs through the right of way, specifically Rebel X, who has proven to be a fantastic partner in our emergency housing programs. They've already indicated their ability to quickly scale to be able to staff this location. And then similarly, because we have kind of a mix of placements, Chair, we've placed some folks in scattered site units throughout the community that had been supported previously by our system advocate team, will continue to be supported by the folks that have remained on for housing stability, but have already negotiated a contract with an outside provider to provide that kind of scattered site support for up to 100 clients. And so those folks will also just be seen by and served by an already contracted provider. So there would be maybe a 30-day kind of startup window for them to be able to scale that, but it should be relatively quickly. We anticipate being able to start moving folks in as early as December 1st.
Thank you, Sean. Other questions, comments from the board? Right, seeing none, then I'll ask if there's a motion to vote on Resolution 2023-15 to enter into this master lease agreement.
I move. Sarah Rankin.
Thank you, Sarah. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Paula. Austin, would you please take a roll call vote?
Absolutely. Member Caminos, yay or nay?
Aye.
Chair Carvalho,
Yes.
Member Shelmanak,
Aye.
Member Merritt's is present. Member Spotted Elk,
Aye.
Member Patno,
Aye.
Member Brandon, oh, not present. Member Reddy,
Aye.
Member Rankin,
Yes.
Chair, I report 7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions.
Well, it appears that Resolution 2023-15 is passed. And Sean, thank you for your presentation and good luck on this. Good work. Next, I'm really excited about this one, a coordinated presentation and coordinated entry from staff members Alex Ibrahimi and Peter Lynn. Heard good things about some of the progress you've made on coordinated entry and excited to hear more.
Thank you. Good afternoon, chairs, members of the implementation board and the public. We wanted to take some time and give a presentation on updates to coordinated entry. This is a long-time national strategy to address alignment between funded programs across continuums. It's been the core of this sort of method that different continuums have aligned all the resources within their continuums to ensure that there is a transparent, open, and available process. And it basically replaced an old system of wait lists and individual contacts to get people into housing. Coordinated entry in our region has been held for a long time by the system lead. That is now us, the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. Alex Ibrahimi has been leading coordinated entry through many enhancements and revisions for the last 7 years. He's our system performance manager, and I want to ask Alex then to present to the board.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to the board for having us here. I am going to share a slide deck shortly. And if y'all can confirm that you're able to see this.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's starting actually.
Okay, let me know when it comes through. Looks like.
Alex, you might want to reset. Try it one more time and pop it on.
What about now?
No.
Okay.
If you're okay with it, I can try via PDF.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
And then you just tell me. Next slide.
Appreciate it.
Can we see it now?
Yep, that's
awesome.
For awareness, Zoom just told me that it quit unexpectedly, but clearly I'm still in the meeting, so I'm not going to click anything anywhere and hope for the best. But if I drop off suddenly, please forgive me for that. Austin, I cannot see the slide deck, but that's okay. I have most of that memorized. So as Peter shared, coordinated entry is a required component of the continuum of care. Locally, and this is slide 2, please. Locally, coordinated entry eligibility consists of people that are staying in emergency shelter or sleeping in a place not meant for human habitation. Those can be places like outside on the sidewalk, in a tent, in an encampment, in a vehicle, in a building that does not have utilities turned on. There are additional eligibility for folks that are fleeing or attempting to flee, so survivors, and for young people that are imminent risk of losing their housing placement within the next 14 days. Eligibility for coordinated entry is primarily focused around the eligibility that are at the front door of the housing resources that are connected to coordinated entry. Next slide, please. At its core, coordinated entry is primarily 5 different components. HUD defines 4, which are the first 4 presented from left to right. First, chain access, and that's how people become familiar with the coordinated entry system and the homeless response system locally. The second one is an assessment that is designed through various means to be able to triage people to appropriate resources. Prioritization, which is precisely what it sounds like. It's segmenting the folks experiencing homelessness in our community and pathing them to housing. And finally, HUD outlined referrals. Locally, we have taken it a step further and included placements or housing as a key outcome and connected to coordinated entry. Next slide, please. So the some of the improvements that were mentioned earlier by Board Chair Reddy are the increase in pathways to housing. So traditionally through coordinated entry locally, there has been a small subset of households experiencing homelessness that were eligible for referral through coordinated entry. And that subset was known as the priority pool, which was determined by a prioritization methodology that Peter, did you want to go now, or we want to wait till after this?
Alex, I think you're out of sync with the deck. I think it's a more expanded deck than I think you're describing. I think you were thinking about a shorter deck.
Yes. I cannot see what is being presented, and I'm reticent to hit anything on Zoom without quitting. So I'm open to suggestions here.
Yeah.
Austin, would you mind sending that PDF to Alex right now, just so we can open it up via email and keep it on hand separately, if that works for you?
Thank you.
So let's
I
take
think that we're on what is page 26 in the deck, system administrative opportunities, which starts with mobility request, waiver updates, prioritization.
Okay.
And right now, what we're seeing on Zoom is page 14, talking about regional access points.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm going to switch over to Peter's office. I apologize. I'll rejoin shortly.
We'll see you in just a moment.
All right, so thanks for bearing with us, folks. Austin, I'm gonna ask you to hop around through the deck just to prepare you. So page 20 is where I was expecting to be. So as I was starting to describe, the coordinated entry system had a couple of very clear opportunities to improve processes. The first one being an expansion of pathways into housing resources. Historically, that had been a small subset known as the priority pool. And what we've done is we've learned from previous projects, and next slide, please, Austin, related to the emergency housing voucher program is primarily an example where we have expanded the pathways into housing for anyone experiencing homelessness in our community to be nominated to resources as they become available. We've also increased the cadence with which we do these activities. So previously we had managed a weekly or bi-weekly process. We have reduced that frequency to daily. So every day we are sharing out the resources to housing, to service providers in our community that are then given opportunities to nominate folks to housing. Next slide, please, Austin. Nominate folks to housing. And this is essentially similar to what we did in part with the emergency housing voucher program, which, if you're familiar and you recall, was a high performing demonstration of that opportunity through HUD a couple years back. And this is essentially reverse matching, where there's a housing, or there's a service provider that has an established relationship with someone experiencing homelessness or family experiencing homelessness, and has committed to providing the navigation support to path them to housing. And that navigation support consistently provided is leading to a faster filling of these resources. And really that's what we were looking to be able to do, which is address some of the long-standing challenges that people in the community have expressed related to previous iterations of coordinated entry. Next slide, please. And the transition period took place over 60 days in the middle of this year, from April 17th to May 26th. This also coincided with the cessation of external fills, which, if you're familiar with, were a process by which if a resource was not filled through coordinated entry, it was then given back to the housing provider to fill at their discretion, meeting other eligibility criteria set out by their funding. We have worked with the service providers and convened a couple of listening sessions to talk about feedback that they have for us, and we're using that to be able to iterate and improve the processes we have currently. Next slide, please. Some things that we've discovered, or rather rediscovered to a certain extent, are the challenges related to chronic homelessness documentation. Chronic homelessness, for those of you that are less familiar, is a criteria set forth by HUD, particularly impactful for permanent supportive housing. The documentation requirements are pretty strict. Being able to successfully produce those documents have been an identifiable challenge for a lot of providers, and we are recognizing that. And in keeping with that and other opportunities, we see the need for a monthly onboarding process for coordinated entry that outlines the housing resources in our community and provides a training component for folks that are less familiar with the portfolio of housing resources in our community. And what we're also seeing, which again, to harken back to the EHVs, is there is a significant scarcity for resources that are durable subsidies that have less supportive services for folks to be able to stabilize. In our community, we have things like rapid rehousing and diversion that are lighter touch and shorter in duration, and things like permanent supportive housing that are the opposite. But that middle valley, so to speak, is something that we've observed as lacking more with more acuity. Next slide, please. Again, so we want to provide the service providers in our community a foundational battery of knowledge when it comes to the resources in our community, particularly the project types, who they're meant to serve, and how our portfolio maps to those resources. And then the other piece is how to effectively make nominations and follow through with housing providers once they receive those referrals. And then next slide, please. We are also looking at improving the mobility request process, particularly when it comes to homelessness waivers, working on a new prioritization update past the COVID prioritization, working with our public housing partners to think about opportunities to streamline the enrollment and intake process for project-based voucher units, develop a sustainable trauma-informed process to be able to, when appropriate, send multiple referrals to one opening to ensure that we shorten the duration that resources stay open, particularly project-based resources, because there's a risk of financial impact for those housing providers. Work on a regional access point design in consideration of a person-centered design strategy, and work in a future state to integrate shelter placements into the coordinated entry system. And the next slide, Austin, is a little out of date. Suffice it to say, the coordinated entry committee is something that is being stood up this month. Applications are still being collected until the end of this Friday, the 13th. Thereafter, we are going to partner with the COC committee to select committee members, and we'll have our first meeting on the 26th of this month, Thursday, to be able to talk about next steps with that team. And the links are on the deck, but they're not in a form that lends itself to this medium. They're also on our website, and we can share them out with folks later after this presentation. Any questions?
Alex, thank you so much for that overview, and Peter as well. What questions do we have from our board members? All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. How do you know, Alex, can you share with me a little bit about how we know if we're being successful? Like in the changes that you've made so far, I know you're getting some feedback from folks. Is there more quantitative information, like time to housing, how many external fills have to happen, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we anticipate being able to present that to the coordinated entry committee in the first meeting later this month. Of course, the external fills have ended. What we have done with the design is integrated opportunities for those providers that had previously relied heavily on external fills to be able to use a systematized process to nominate folks they're serving to housing. Certainly, what I can say from my own observation is that we are where we have historically seen many resources not get referrals in the matter of days or sometimes weeks. We are seeing nominations and referrals happen for most examples within a 24-hour period. There are some exceptions, particularly when the eligibility is several steps, several really specific, that presents some challenges, as you would expect. But for the majority of the resources, we're seeing a turnaround within a 24-hour period.
Thank you, Alex. And just for anybody who may not be aware, when you're matching these resources, it sounds like some of these various housing opportunities may have more or less supports, but also may have restrictions on who can be referred there. For example, it might need someone with a disability to be a fill.
Correct. And fundamentally, we look for eligibility preference on the part of the household and appropriate service match to the resource.
I'm really glad you mentioned the documentation barriers, like both around chronic homelessness and also disability verification. Both these kind of documentation hurdles are extraordinarily frustrating when they prevent someone who needs or paperwork or somebody living outside for 20 years, not interacting with the system in any way, and you have to somehow prove that they are chronically homeless, and they can only self-certify, I think, for 3 months or something of that nature.
Correct. There's a very detailed flow chart that HUD has created, which is often a reference point that is a good visual display of how complex it is to document chronic homelessness.
part of our role in KCRHA is also to advocate for, system changes. And I know you guys talk to HUD a lot. Is this the kind of thing that they would ever be flexible on, offering to allow us to bend the rules or, lower barriers in some fashion?
This is definitely an area for advocacy, and I think, different communities have approached requesting waivers on this. It is statutory, so it's not an easy one. It's, regulatory fixes can waive, and but this is an area where we would definitely want to work on the legislation.
Thank you for that, Peter. I have one more question, but I want to stop myself for a moment and also mention that Sarah Rankin had put into the chat that great work, Alex. Definitely agree. I promise this is my last question. Shelter in CA. What do you imagine that looking like, and do you worry about it creating friction in getting somebody into shelter?
Yeah, I am always concerned about the impact on the person who's attempting, in this case, to access services, and thinking about the potential risk of introducing a delay or friction, to use your term, where there may not have been any. I think if this is not something that we would rush into, this is a long-term vision. But as we think about the design of it, integrating the input of people with lived experience who have in the past attempted to access shelter, and having deep conversations with the shelter providers that are delivering that shelter, I think as a community we can forge a path where someone who's experiencing unsheltered homelessness, who is seeking a shelter bed, could be able to access that shelter bed in a more consistent and clear, to use the intent of coordinated entry, a clear pathway to the resource. And I think that's something that I, personally, I would endorse from my experience working in direct service as an opportunity to improve the system overall.
Thank you, Alex. Other questions, comments from the board? Thank you for both the presentation and this tremendous work over the last, year, frankly, or more.
Thank you, Gavin.
We're going to shift over now, and I think this is to have a discussion with our Continuum of Care co-chairs, Marvin Futrell, and if Jaja Floyd is there, we'd love to have her join as well. And I think this is, as we saw in court in that presentation, COC provides oversight to CA, to the coordinated entry program. And I think I'm so grateful to Marvin for coming, joining us today, and sharing a little bit about all the work you've been doing at the COC, and helping us learn more and understand better what our respective roles are.
Just so folks know, Jaja is in the public attendees list, just so folks know.
Awesome.
I'm on it.
All right. And for those unaware, the Continuum of Care Board and our advisory committee are, the advisory committee is our COC board for this region. But Marvin, may I turn it over to you and welcome you to our meeting?
Well, thank you. Hopefully Jaja will be able to join me shortly.
Yes, Jaja, I sent you I promoted you to panelist. It might ask yes to join. There you come.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Martin Futrell. I go by he, him. I've been one of the co-chairs for the Continuum of Care Board since you established us almost 3 years ago, come this January. This is request that was being honored. For part of the way this structure was designed was to have communication and collaboration between the boards. It is the last piece of our Continuum of Care board that we need to stand up, and that's how we operate as an advisory committee. And build pathways to where information is shared. I mean, I can think of a dozen examples of how different boards actually function and work, and how it can easily not be seen through just checking in on a monthly meeting or a bi-monthly meeting, if that becomes the case. The ability to share the same knowledge and get feedback. We designed this. This was designed by people with lived experience to incorporate their voices into the process on our board, on the implementation board, and the governing board. I believe that to honor that, the work has to be done to connect those voices and those boards so that we are as effective as we could be. I'm gonna stop there for an opening. Jaja?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to speak at the implementation board as a COC chair co-chair with Marvin. I would like to just say that it would be an honor to work alongside you so that we can get this work done. You know, so that we together can come to the best solutions to figure out to carry this load that we have, you know, and it's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse. And together we can do it, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So back to you, Marvin.
Indeed. I guess I'll start if there are any questions from the IB board. Anyone? Right. I don't know how to prompt this discussion, and I'm always careful that I recognize and respect the space that I'm in. But the conversations that drive us, sometimes I don't see reflected in decisions made by other boards. And if I always would ask, if we make any decision about what we do for people, some basic questions always be asked, such as, is any action that we take scalable to reach the number of folks that we're trying to serve? As a continuum of care, we don't get to dodge the actual number of people across King County who are in need of services. It's not perfunctory. We really look at it as going out and capturing voices from people who are experiencing homelessness and making sure that's represented in the room. And I guess my first question for discussion is that still the guiding, is that something that the implementation board finds useful or helpful?
I mean, I can't speak for the whole board, but you know, from myself as chair, 100%. I think the KCRHA has, frankly, kind of unusual structure, right? A governing committee, an implementation board, and an advisory committee that has its own set of responsibilities, right? And I think the more that each of our boards are really fully understands what those roles are, the better. So, for example, I am fascinated by coordinated entry, right? Like, I think that is a really, important topic, and I think it's one that the implementation board should know about. But, as HUD, as essentially like a HUD mandated tool, this really falls to you to provide the oversight, right? And so we want to be in the ways that we sort of like learn about the work that's being done and guide the work that's being done. Like if I were to try to tell staff to do one thing with CA, but really they should be taking direction from you, like that's a problem, right? So us coming together and being able to hear from each other on a regular basis, I think is incredibly important. So I'm really grateful you both asked to be here and to come speak with us today.
Thank you.
And I actually saw that, I apologize, Sarah, you had your hand up for a moment. I don't know if you still had.
Thanks. Yeah, it seemed like Marvin was starting to speak to it. I just wanted to ask Marvin and Jaja if they had specific, recommendations that would help the coordination and collaboration between the boards and the flow of information to flow better. If you have recommendations that you'd like to share with the implementation board.
Jaja?
Yeah, Sarah, thank you for that question. For me, I would like the flow of information to go that what I would ask of the implementation board is that we could meet like monthly, maybe. I mean, just a small group of you, whoever would like to come, and we could come together, making sure that we are streamlining the work together. Us staying in our lane, you staying in your lane, but together, how we could collaborate and make it a better transition process, for however you want to call it, for those most vulnerable, in doing the work that we do together. So I would just ask that we could meet more often. Or if there's questions, some way of having communication, a communication flow that is just not siloed. You see what I'm saying? That we both, that we could have that bantering back and forth to make sure that the solution is reached or continue to be, taking steps at a time for the bigger picture, so that we could get the work done. Marvin?
Thank you, Jaja. Sarah, I guess the only thing that I would add is, as it was built into the ILA, there were to be coordination by our staffing counterpoints to meet at minimum twice a year. I would like to say that communication in this structure has proven would probably not change or remove the distance between the board's actions in a significant way if it was just twice a year. I think Jaja made a very nice ask. I've worked hard to try to figure out how we can connect, even if it's just a small number of folks on a monthly basis, so that we can each we are addressing the same issues or the right issues, and things aren't lost, or one board discusses an issue to ad nauseum and comes to a decision, and then it's just presented to the other boards. That's not collaborating, that's not seeking input for creating the best overall solutions. So I want to lean into, I believe that setting up a cadence that allows that communication to take place would be very helpful. And I'm really interested in what the board members think about that, or engaging in that. I've heard some positive comments so far. But like our board, you're a large group.
I see, Juanita, you turned on your video. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to, I agree. I think I heard this word in a different meeting, fragmentation, and that was something that Lamont had talked about. And I think education is always ongoing, learning from each other. and sharing that information. I think when we start to weed people out or limit people's voices, and then that's when gatekeeping happens. But because of the trainings that we have had on this board and many others in working together and learning from the experts about what that looks like, sounds like, and how can we dismantle it? How can we make it better for everyone? And we really need to meet more regularly, in my opinion, and being able, not just online hybrid meetings, but in person is helpful. I wanted to be at the meeting and I had an important commitment. So, and really building community together and serving our homeless relatives that are unsheltered, that are most vulnerable, and really save lives and really come together. That is key. And I don't like division. I don't like strife. I think there's a way to do things to have respect for everyone's voices and really listen. So I totally agree. And I hope that we can have more trainings to help. And I'm just speaking for myself because this is my first time in this work. I'm not employed or anything. And it just helps me to have more knowledge and resources available. Like Alex talked about informed trauma care. I think that is really needed, and harm reduction and de-escalation and all those other good ones, to really have our board members to participate and meet with those that are have encampments and that are sleeping outside, and to really make time to hear their voices and their stories. And to know, I think too often that we don't see the person in their story, and we just hear a narrative that is always negative. So I think that would give us an opportunity to listen for ourselves. And anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita.
Ben, welcome back as well. And Jaja, I think Austin will check in with you after, but before the meeting started, Marvin was kind enough to agree to join us at our executive committee meeting tomorrow, at least to figure out a game plan for how and when to meet. And that may be, through one of the committees like system performance or something else, to make sure that we are, or the executive committee, someplace where we can regularly connect. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to come together, because actually my heart and what I wish for is for networking that will affect a change in what's happening outside, and on a larger scale. And together, I think the more minds with more ideas, we can come with a greater and a better solution.
Well, Jaja, Marvin, thank you both for being here with us. And also just want to say, at least, hopefully on behalf of the board, thank you for all the work you put into helping this, our HUD application get put in recently. I think it's one of our biggest ever. And, that was your work in addition to the staff work. So thank you for that. Hopefully it'll go well.
Yes, we need every penny.
All right. Any last thoughts or comments? Okay. Well, thank you again. And we are going to take a moment and turn back to Peter Lynn. I think hopefully you're still on here to give an overview and answer questions about a new financial, or on the financial signing policy revision. After that, we'll have a quick voice vote to on those new revisions. Peter, take it away.
Good afternoon again, Peter Lynn, he, him, Chief Program Officer. Among our basic financial policies is the authority to execute contracts. This policy revision seeks to bring current some of the elements that we've added to the organization since the last revision, which was in April of 22. We've added some titles, including the chief of staff, and we've expanded some roles, including manager approval for invoices. These are things that we'd like to bring back, get authorization for the board. The implementation board does have authority over these policies. So the memorandum laid out the basic revisions. They are in alignment with adding the role responsibilities that the organization has added to the organization chart. But also a few additions. We've added authorization for financial for managers in the finance department to approve invoices that they were previously all required to be approved by the director. That is a bit onerous, and it can potentially cause delays. We'd like to add manager approval at that. And the last thing was that the former policy was silent on the capacity to delegate when staff are out. So this formally adopts the capacity to adopt delegation.
I believe that financial signing policy is in our packet, but Austin, are you able to just pull it up on the screen just in case anyone has questions?
Yeah, I'm doing it now. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Of course.
I want to open it to the board for questions or comments. Well, seeing no hands raised, I will ask if there's a motion to approve this new financial signing policy.
I motion to approve the policy.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any objections? Or any opposed, I'm sorry. Any abstentions? All right, I believe our new financial signing policy is passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. All right. Finally, before we adjourn this meeting, I want to take a moment and thank member Sarah Rankin, one of our founding implementation board members. She's ending her time with the board, and I just want to say, got a deep well of gratitude to you, Sarah, for bringing your expertise and heart to this work. If you'd like to share anything, turn it over to you for a moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the opportunity to serve, and how excited I am for the Lived Experience Coalition to bring forth some new membership or some new leadership, and I think that that's underway. So I just really appreciate all the hard work and the work that this board and the KCHRA is doing.
Well, thank you, Sarah. On behalf of all of us, thank you. Well, with that said, and all business finished, we are now able to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are
Thank
adjourned
you.
until, oh, sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
We're adjourned until our next meeting on November 8th, 2023. Take care all.